This week on Arizona Illustrated, a new art gallery in Tucson creates space for underrepresented artists to get experimental.
I saw Lizz's work and I was like, who is this person and why haven't I not seen her work in Tucson before? When we went and did a studio visit and it was on.
Find out why the owner of this German restaurant in Sierra Vista is so angry.
To somebody that doesn't speak it, it sounds like such an angry language.
Ich glaube, wir haben ein neues da unten, oder?
Our story on Tucson's Homestretch Foundation won a regional Edward R. Murrow Award.
We're seeing change happen, but we still have to continue to lobby for this inclusion.
And author and poet Javier Zamora reads his poem, Aniversario, for an exciting collaboration between our program and the Poetry Center.
There's another verdant couple who don't need to build a nest.
Hello, and welcome to another new episode of Arizona Illustrated. I'm Tom McNamara, and we're joining you from the University of Arizona Poetry Center. You know, it's a great place to escape the summer heat. The air conditioning in here is terrific. And it's also a wonderful place to take in the largest standalone collection of poetry in North America. Our show will be teaming up with them for the next 6 weeks, visualizing poems from some highly acclaimed local poets. We'll have more on that later on in the show. Snakebite is a unique little gallery in downtown Tucson. It was designed as a creation space by its owners Geneva Foster Gluck and Racheal Rios, a place where underrepresented artists could be more experimental and show their work. Artist Lizz Denneau was invited to show her work, and she used it as an opportunity now to test her thesis work that explores hidden and erased histories of the Black diaspora.
I came from a family of sewers on my mother's side. And fashion design was a form of expression and something that happened because I was poor. So I started, to my mother's dismay, cutting up clothes and sewing them back together. And when I got into my 20s, I went to Pima and immediately started doing fashion shows, and eventually was well known enough to start a fashion week here in Tucson. And my business grew mostly online, but I got tired of sewing the same dress like 100 times. So I spent a couple years figuring out what I wanted to do. By that time I was in my 30s, and I went back to work in school systems. All the time I was making visual art, like 2D art, but I wasn't really thinking about it as a practice until I got to art school at the U of A. I think everybody creative has this kind of intuition and thread of understanding materials and objects and are in deep relationships with them. And so mine is these like discarded, vintage, sometimes broken things that I can then collage together in a piece to tell a story. I am probably attracted to specific pieces, like specific types of it. I love porcelain, but I also love like rusted tools and things like that. So I collect them, and they always eventually tell me what piece they belong in. I'm working with hidden histories. I'm working with discarded peoples and cultures, and these objects all at once represent the past and present to me. These pictures, these men are like in everything. 3 planters after 1845 is what it's called. Don't they just look like plantation owners? Like what you would expect them to look like. I also collect what Nick Cave, the artist, calls relics. And these are sometimes listed kindly as African American Americana, but they really are racist sad, decorative items. And oddly enough, when I find them, I'm not sad about them. I just know that they have a story to tell that is alternative to what has been given to them. One of the reasons why I chose to do residency at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago for my MFA was because of the faculty and because of the diversity. As a Black artist who's doing work, I need another Black artist to be like, yeah, that's awesome, or you're missing the mark there, you know? And I'm also somebody who didn't necessarily grow up within a culture, right? One, because I was in Tucson, and two, because I was raised by my maternal family. And so you need that companionship, you need that support, you need that critical eye. Everybody needs that to grow as an artist. And that's really important. And I wish we, in general, had more spaces like that in Tucson. You know, we can open an art news or even a juxtapose and be like, oh, women and people of color are having a moment in the art world, but the statistics and the numbers tell us differently, right? We're not being acquired by institutions or collectors. Things have not changed that much. I think the most special part of Snakebite is Racheal and Geneva. They're really approaching it in this very contemporary fashion. They are an example of people who are trying to create those spaces. They have had a lot of people of color show there, and they've also had a lot of women show there.
I feel like we balance each other in such a great way that I agree. Yeah, we cover all the, I like to say, scholar and street. That's if we had a show.
I have to be the scholar. Welcome. Before we begin, there are a few things we would like you to know.
Geneva and I do performance together, and we had been looking for a studio space. As an artist and also as a consumer, the relationship begins where you're making work centered around the monetization of it. It gets hard. You aren't allowed to fail, and you're not allowed to try new things. And it feels so great to be able to give space to artists that I just particularly like. For me, it feels defiant.
We've had the opportunity to travel and to see residencies and performance festivals, different ways and models to create this type of space. And it just wasn't really in Tucson. It really feels like providing a little stepping stone for practice that is where we both want to go and where we love seeing people arrive.
I saw Lizz's work and I was like, who is this person and why haven't I not seen her work in Tucson before? And I reached out to her and we went and did a studio visit, and it was on.
When they asked me to do an installation, and then I realized it's a really huge opportunity to test out my thesis. When I started working strictly in 3D, I was moving on instinct a lot. And I was creating a piece, the first of its kind for me, about the antebellum South. I grew up with the white half of my family. I don't know the Black half. And so in an attempt to understand my ancestry, I started doing research because, like many people in the diaspora, you hit a dead end. Everything started to merge as I learned about these systems that we've created since the beginning of our country and how they have evolved, and we're still living under them and we don't always know that we are. And so that is the concept of you've made this house your home, this idea of house being a metaphor to these systems that we live in, and that, maybe the house is passed down generationally and you're not aware of the different societal constructs that are actually bad bones. It's only recently that we started really thinking about patriarchal structures, and we're now calling attention to our words and our thoughts and these things that were taught to us over time. And part of it is also a call to communities of color, my community, saying let's examine what's going on within this umbrella of white supremacy, these concepts of class and respectability politics and where those came from. That heritage is really important, and to change that, it's like that therapist saying it ran in my family till it ran into me, but that's not gonna happen until we take a good look at those systems that we might have been engaging in that we didn't know about, or maybe some hard histories of our family.
Last month, we brought you an entire episode from Sierra Vista, and we were surprised to learn that this town of fewer than 50,000 people has not one or two, but 3 German restaurants, each with their own unique approach to the cuisine. Well, now in part 2 of our 3-part series, Sierra Vista's Germany, we meet the owner of Angry German.
Das Olivenöl war ganz hinten, gell? All right, just to make sure that you're really you had zucchini bites, Rahm schnitzel. Beautiful. All right.
My name is Dennis Davila, and I am one of the 2 owners of the Angry German here in Sierra Vista. My business partner Dwayne and I, we both worked for corporate restaurants in Tucson. We had an idea that we wanted to open up our own restaurant, and I had known the previous owners of this restaurant for quite a long time. One day I'd come here for lunch with my mom, and Michelle, the previous owner, she said, Dennis, I'd really like to retire. From there, the dream essentially was born, and we rebranded it. We made it our own, and we decided to have some fun with the name, and we called it the Angry German. That really comes from just a play on what they used to call me in the corporate world. So anytime my mom would call me, she ignores me if I speak to her in English. So I had to speak to her in German, and to somebody that doesn't speak it, it sounds like such an angry language.
Ich glaube, wir haben ein neues da unten, oder?
So they kind of nicknamed me the Angry German. So we just decided to have some fun with it.
Peace is on its way. Bravo 2? Bravo 2.
2021, yep, November of 2021. It's been very, very good. Our take on the German restaurant is a little bit more fusion style. It's more American meets German. Some of that German flavor, some of that German flair, but also kind of mixed and blended with things that an American audience would be familiar with.
Lamb and beef style Euro meat, and then fresh tzatziki, onions, tomatoes, and our house-made coleslaw as well.
Our potato salad is quite literally the mixture of a German recipe and an American recipe, and we played with that too and decided to call it NATO potato salad. We also have an active bakery. We bake cakes, we bake pastries. Most of the pastries we bake are French style, they're not German style pastries. We do have a few German styles, but most of them are French. And that's kind of what we were going for.
Granulated sugar, mac mix, beautiful. There you go. Let me grab you a check, my friend, and I'll have one of the boys come and do that real quick. Yeah.
I was originally born in Wiesbaden, Germany, and my mom married an American soldier, and he adopted me. And that's how I became, 1, an American, and 2, how I got a very Hispanic last name.
Your total damage is 3044 on that one.
People do talk about the fact that there's 3 German restaurants in Sierra Vista. There was actually, until recently, there was 4. And one of those ladies recently retired, and she was not far from here either. I think it's the military base that drew that, and it just kind of became almost a natural thing to have German restaurants so close to a military base.
All right, if you need anything else, just yell at the top of your lungs, okay? All right, thanks.
Looking back on it, I think I probably made the best decision that I could have possibly made.
Thank you. Behind.
Opening up your own restaurant it's not easy, and the first year can be challenging.
The one that you had today, the cheddar with the green chili, so they kind of dance well together, I think.
I would say to anybody out there that's considering doing it, put a plan together and chase your dream. You won't regret it.
Well, I'm here to do more than just look pretty. Excuse me.
Last month, winners were announced for the 2023 Edward R. Murrow Excellence in Journalism Awards. And Arizona Public Media won 6 awards. 5 of them came from this show, which means that this show single-handedly won more Murrow Awards than any other public media television station in the country. That's nice. Well, this next story on the Tucson-based organization, the Homestretch Foundation, which focuses on the myriad challenges faced by professional female cyclists, won the Murrow Award for sports reporting. So congrats to producer Liz Scherfius and videographer Nate Huffman.
There's nothing more that I like than riding my bike and racing, and I love the adrenaline, and yeah, I like to fly down mountains.
Being here really gives me a chance to just focus really hard on getting high quality training.
Sometimes you don't want to train, it's hard, like you don't feel as good as you want to. It's hard to train, it's hard to race. Also, it's kind of an unsure career, like what am I gonna do after? Will I get there? Will I be able to win money with my bike racing? So being here, being like with other girls that feels the same thing, it makes you feel like you belong somewhere.
Everyone has their own goals, but they also like genuinely want to see you reach your goals. I got a flat. There's a lot of thorns here in Tucson, so it's a pretty prevalent occurrence. I think it's good for everyone to know how to fix their own flats, because when you're training, sometimes you have to go alone, and it's good to be self-reliant, self-sufficient. I love doing my tempo intervals up Lemon because it's just such a steady gradient. You can really just get in the zone and listen to your music and hammer it out. And then the better you do your interval, the more you get to descend. So it's rewarding.
The Homestretch Foundation came into being when I was a pro cyclist and I was really struggling to make ends meet. I'd made it to the World Tour level. And had I been a man at the World Tour level, I would have had a minimum base salary. But the women were deemed, quote unquote, not to deserve one. And that made no sense to me. And I remember thinking, we need to fight this. And at the same time, I was like, if I'm at this level and there is no minimum base salary, then I might have to quit this sport. But I wouldn't have to if I were a man at this level. So that was difficult for me to handle. When we started Homestretch Foundation, the base salary for men was about 35,000 euro, which is roughly equivalent to 40K US dollars. I saw women leave the sport because they couldn't make ends meet. Athletes can apply for a 2 to 6 month residency. And for them, being able to live here and not have to pay rent and utilities is huge when their paychecks are that small that it makes a big difference.
I'm a waitress, so I just stand up for 12 hours straight. So on my bike after, even if I don't feel it, I know that I have less energy to train. So being here, so I have more energy to focus in my training.
Really struggled back home with resting enough because I worked a part-time job, and if I wasn't working, then I was cycling. So it's been really nice to be able to rest properly and stretch, and it just keeps all of the niggles and injuries prevented.
By 2023, the women of the World Tour will have the same base salary of the men at the pro-continental level of professional cycling, which is the minor league equivalent to the major league of the World Tour. We will still have to continue to fight and say, no, it's not enough that we just have the same base salary as the pro-continental men. We need the same salary as the World Tour men. We're seeing change happen, but we still have to continue to lobby for this inclusion.
Being a woman in cycling, gender equality is like pretty much all you think about. I feel like the gender equality fight is moving, but moving slowly. I'm not sure if it's gonna be fully equal when I end my career, but there's big steps that are being made. This is the medal that I won in Tokyo. On the side here, you can see it says rowing and women's pair. It's very heavy. Previous to cycling, I rowed. When the pandemic hit, we couldn't train in boats. I bought my first carbon road bike, and then that was primarily what I did for most of my training. And then I guess I just fell in love with cycling to the point that I was like, okay, like I could see myself switching over once the Tokyo Olympics were done.
Welcome to the Homestretch, Spin with the Stretchies. We encourage you to ride next to someone you don't know. And that's one of our things for our athletes. Will find their way next to someone they have not yet met. And nice, easy, chill, chat ride. All right, shall we roll it? Yeah, sure. Woo! All right.
On Fridays, we have an event called Spin with the Stretchies. The Stretchies being the nickname for the Homestretch athletes. Term of endearment. So on Fridays, we have a ride that leaves from La Buzz on Tanque Verde, and it just lasts for an hour. It's 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. And we go out at a very slow pace, tops 15 miles an hour. And we ride, so athletes can talk to members of our Tucson community who might not be professional bike racers, but they just want to get to know, what's it like being at Homestretch, and, what's it like being an Olympian? What's it like being an aspiring pro?
Well, it was fun riding with you.
Yeah, it was really nice. No problem. Well, have a good rest of your ride.
Yeah, you too.
Thank
too.
you.
Nice meeting you.
Yeah.
You're racing too?
Yeah.
I'll come watch.
Oh, perfect.
Okay.
Cool. I think we have time to grab coffee before we leave.
Community group ride that's open to anybody that wants to come out and join us. And it's pretty awesome to see the connections and the kindness that comes from that.
Together we're unstoppable.
So far, we've been able to help 75 athletes from 17 different countries, and we've just started our 6th year. And we're growing, and it's a beautiful thing to see how this effect has helped so many.
Next up, we're doing something a little bit different for our show. As we mentioned earlier, for the next 6 weeks, we're teaming up with the Poetry Center to bring you a series of poems written by local poets and then visualized by our team of producers. First up is Aniversario, or We Moved to Tucson During the Pandemic, which was written by poet and author Javier Zamora as a tribute to his wife, Jo Cipriano.
Aniversario, or We Moved to Tucson During a Pandemic, for Jo Cipriano. First time in our porch, on the first morning we woke in our fully furnished apartment because we don't own anything but books, we saw a small gray bird with a yellow head grab the curled beans of the mesquite. We watched Voltaire, who we now know is a Verdin, build his nest every single day. Turns out that was his display nest. Turns out that was the first time either of us signed a lease with someone else. And now we moved to a casita and co-bought our first bed, couch, table, chairs, and a hammock. Voltaire is elsewhere with his love, an equally gray, yellow, and red bird who helped V build the real nest. In our new place, there's another Verdin couple who don't need to build a nest, but whom I watch search for food every morning when I wake, minutes, sometimes hours before you, to turn on the computer screen, to relive the time when I searched for food, water, a different home. It took me years to find you, or you found me by sitting across the table as I ate a vegan meal at the Buddhist monastery the Dalai Lama calls his home when he's in the United States. I'm vegan now because I can't eat next to you and not share. I've learned from the Verdins to sing you awake whenever I want you, near my branch, eating the same tiny leaf from the mesquites outside our bed.
Please stay tuned to Arizona Illustrated to see more of this series of poems. And we'll be screening the series on the big screen in conjunction with the Poetry Center at the Loft Cinema on Tuesday, July 18th at 5 p.m. Now, this event is free, it's open to the public, and we'd love to see you there. Thank you for joining us here on Arizona Illustrated. I'm Tom McNamara, and we'll see you next week with another new episode.